This morning, I want to talk about another project that's eligible for the funding for the half-cent sales tax. As we think about infrastructure, we've talked about a lot. Last week with the Sycamore Underpass, we talked about highways, streets, a lot of those other projects. You really don't think too much about sidewalks, but actually, with this new funding capability, the sidewalks do become eligible. And so we have really 3 points that we've talked about over the past few years, and particularly the last few months, about sidewalks in Grand Island. One is ADA compliant. As the federal government and the state government looks more at ADA capabilities, putting more pressure, if you will, or regulations on the cities to become more ADA compliant for sidewalks. Secondly, we have a number of sidewalks that are becoming deteriorated. Obviously, over time, they become deteriorated and are not accessible for the public to walk on. Then thirdly, we have a number of areas in the community that just don't have sidewalks. They were not required to put in. So as we update and upgrade those development areas, we're looking at the new sidewalks. So one of the projects that we certainly want to be a part of, and the council has made it kind of a priority, if you will, for a cost share program for sidewalks to get some of these projects completed. And so that's kind of why we're looking out here today at some of the things we've done already and some of the things that need to be done in sidewalks. And of course, I want to remind the voters that without this capability of additional funding source, if we have any programs, they'll come out of the general fund. And on November 8th, the citizens have an opportunity to pass the half-cent sales tax, which will go to some of these projects that we've been talking about. So, and again, I want to remind the voters that there's two issues on the ballot. One is to generate the fund, really collect the fund, and the other is to be able to spend the dollars. So I just want to point that out, make that clear.
Well, currently with our deficient sidewalks that we have in town, as Marlon mentioned, it is a complaint-driven situation with the city where the Public Works Department does not get involved unless we have a property owner that has concerns with a certain area, and then we'll go out and investigate and determine if those areas are deficient or not. And if they are currently, the property owner is responsible for fixing the deficient sidewalk sections. There is a potential in the future that City Council could come up with a new plan if we have a dedicated funding source that could implement a cost-sharing program with the adjacent property owners to fix those deficient sidewalks. We've looked at the cost over the last couple of weeks, and for a typical 80-foot city lot with a 4-foot sidewalk for 80 feet, it would cost the property owner about $2,500 for the entire stretch. Now, typically when we're looking at deficient sidewalks, they don't run the entire property length, so it would be a portion of whatever is deficient that would need to be fixed. So there's a lot of variations in the sidewalks. We do have some that are concrete, some that are brick. And again, it all depends upon the adjacent property owner and how much pride they take in their infrastructure that's surrounding them. Some of them take great pride, and we've got some brick that's behind you guys that looks fantastic, and you got some brick down here that is completely overgrown and it's not very well maintained, and that's just part of the system. The current system that we've got in place is right now the City of Grand Island will handle the ADA curb ramps at the corners. And so if those are missing or deficient, the city will be responsible for that section. Anything outside of the corners, the homeowner is responsible from property line to property line. We really started our program in 2007, and we're on a long range plan to get the entire city done. The count currently is we have over 5,000 ramps to do, and the cost per ramp is between $1,500 and $1,600. So the city's looking at a price tag of about $8 million to complete everything in the city. So we're on a long plan until we get dedicated funds. Whether we like it or not, the ADA compliance is a non-funded federal mandate, and like it or not, we as local government officials have to deal with it. The slopes of these ramps have to be set at a certain angle to make them ADA compliant. And most of the sidewalks in the city currently have curb here, and then there's just sidewalk. And to get these curb cuts in, you've got to have a set flare to them to make them ADA compliant. Plus, you also see these truncated domes on the surface here. These are required for your visually impaired and your wheelchair folks to notify them that they're traveling from a safe zone into a hazardous zone. So that is another piece of the ADA requirement, is these bumps that you see on the corners as well. Again, based off of the ADA documentation, anything over a ½ inch is considered a deficient sidewalk. As you can see, we got about 2 inches here, so this would be considered a deficient sidewalk. Anything that's between a ½ inch and a ¼ inch needs to be beveled at a 1:1, and then anything under a ¼ inch is considered okay.
It's kind of an informal program. A neighbor can complain against a neighbor and then come in and we will request them to, if they are needing repairs, the city council can, first of all, we ask them to voluntarily do the repair work, and then if they don't, then the city council can force that upon them. So it's not a really good system that we have today. It's kind of a we certainly want to look at that policy going forward, irregardless of if this funding passes or not. But certainly if it passes, we'll be looking at a new program for that.